Welcome to Part 3 of the Savvy Submitter's Guide to Issues, Resolutions, and Principles. This video will get into more detail about submitting resolutions for consideration. Before proceeding, you should watch Part 1 of this series, which is an overview of Washington State PTA's legislative platform. As we learned in the first video in this series, resolutions are part of our long-term platform. They are positions that guide our work from the local to the state level, are usually broader in scope than legislative issues, and generally have a call for action. Resolutions guide the advocacy work of Washington State PTA and our local PTAs and councils with all levels of policymakers. Resolutions can be submitted, amended, or retired each year at Legislative Assembly and Convention. The full list of resolutions can be found on the Resolutions page of our website. Resolutions are permanent unless amended or retired by our membership. The resolution's life cycle begins when they are submitted by PTA members, local PTAs and PTSAs in good standing, councils in good standing, or Washington State PTA committees. For Legislative Assembly, the submission draft deadline is May 1st and the final submission deadline is June 1st. For Convention, the submission draft deadline is November 1st and the final submission deadline is November 15th. The next step is when first the Resolutions Committee and then the Washington State PTA Board of Directors review submitted resolutions to ensure they align with PTA vision, mission, and goals. Submitted resolutions are scored against a checklist before being approved to move forward to the delegates at Legislative Assembly or Convention. Resolutions are the one part of our legislative platform that can be considered at our annual convention. After resolutions have been reviewed and the information has been communicated to members, voting delegates debate and vote on those resolutions. During the legislative session, the Advocacy Committee and the Washington State PTA Legislative Consultant work together when reviewing current legislation that aligns with our legislative platform and determine which bills to support or oppose. Everything you need to submit a resolution for consideration can be found on the Washington State PTA website. Hover over Focus Areas and then click on Advocacy. This is the main Advocacy page where you will find the drop-down to get to the Resolutions page. If you scroll to the bottom of the page, you will find all of the information you will need to submit a proposal, including the steps in the process, deadlines, submitter requirements, and the documents you should review in advance. It is important that you familiarize yourself with all of this information. You will use the online resolution proposal form to submit your proposed resolution. The resolution proposal instructions have more detailed information about the process and criteria. The resolution review checklist will be used by the Washington State PTA Resolutions Committee to review all submissions. There is one checklist for new resolutions and one for amendments to existing resolutions. Reviewing this will help you formulate your proposal with the best opportunity for success. Please begin by reviewing the 3-page resolution proposal instruction document, as it will answer questions about steps in the submission process, deadlines, resolution submitter requirements, and will review the questions you need to answer and information you will need to supply for your submission form. Please note the following deadlines. Submitters are encouraged to email their draft title and resolution to the Resolutions Chair no later than May 1st for Legislative Assembly and November 1st for Convention. This allows the Resolutions Chair to give preliminary feedback. It also allows them to encourage different submissions on the same topic to work together on one proposal versus separate proposals. The completed online resolution proposal form is due no later than June 1st for Legislative Assembly and November 15th for Convention to give the Resolutions Committee time to prepare for the meeting where all submissions are reviewed. After the online resolution proposal form is received, Washington State PTA will email submitters a unique Dropbox link for you to upload a Word document that includes the required resolution title, whereas clauses, resolved clauses, persuasive statement, and facts and evidence. For Legislative Assembly, your Word document must be uploaded no later than June 5th and no later than November 19th for Convention. Next, we suggest you review the Resolution Review Checklist. There's one checklist for new resolutions and another for amendments to existing resolutions. These are the checklists the Resolution Committee will use to review all submissions. It will help you understand the various criteria the committee uses to evaluate submissions. You will submit your proposed resolution using the online resolution proposal form. This is the online resolution proposal form that is due no later than June 1st for Legislative Assembly and November 15th for Convention. If the directions are not followed and/or deadlines are not met, it may prevent your resolution from being considered and/or moving forward. The first page of the form goes over the steps in the process, deadlines, submitter requirements, and other instructions. Please note, you are not able to save an in-progress resolution proposal form. If you close your browser or go back, your resolution proposal form will not be recorded. You must complete the proposal form in one sitting. We recommend that you review this proposal form in advance and save your answers in a Word document. The next page of the form is for submitter information and is required for all proposals. The first question has you mark the entity submitting the proposal. The options are an individual PTA member, a local PTA in good standing, a council in good standing, or a Washington State PTA committee. If the submission is coming from a local PTA or council, please note that it must be documented in your meeting minutes that the submission has been discussed and it is approved to be submitted on behalf of the local PTA or council. An individual PTA member may not make the decision to submit something on behalf of their PTA or council. The next questions ask for primary submitter information. We need one main point of contact for the submission. You will then be asked if you want to include an additional submitter. This is optional. If you do, you will need to provide the same contact information for the additional submitter. The next question has you mark whether you are submitting a new resolution, an amendment to an existing resolution, or the retirement of an existing resolution. Let's first go through the rest of the process for new resolutions. You will be asked for the title of your proposed new resolution. The resolution title should be 60 characters or less, including spaces, and should concisely and accurately describe the resolution. The title is important, as that is often the only thing used to reference a resolution. For new resolutions, there are also questions about the topic. First, you will be asked to provide any information you have about any legislators and/or groups or coalitions that are currently working on the topic. If you don't have any information on other groups working this topic, please select Unknown. And finally, you list any Washington State PTA, other state PTA congresses, or national PTA positions, principles, issues, or resolutions that align with your proposed new resolution. Cite the position or resolution title and year if known. How do you know if the topic has been part of the PTA platform in the past? Start by going to the Washington State PTA website and check the main advocacy page to see if it is a current issue. Then you can go to the file list and review the Washington State PTA Platform History document, which is a history of Washington State PTA issues going back to 1982. You should also go to the Resolutions page of the website and review the current Washington State PTA Board Positions and Resolutions document, as well as the separate document that lists retired resolutions. Also review the Legislative Principles, which can be found on the Legislative Principle page of the website. Finally, go to the National PTA website and look to see if they have any related positions and resolutions. The final requirement for new resolutions is to upload a Word document with your resolution title, whereas clauses, resolved clauses, persuasive statement, and facts and evidence. When you have completed and submitted the online resolution proposal form, Washington State PTA will send an email to the primary submitter's email address within 2 days. This email will include a link to a unique Dropbox folder for your proposal. Submitters will upload a Word document with the following information. The resolution title should be 60 characters or less, including spaces, and should concisely and accurately describe the resolution. Resolutions may have a maximum of 10 whereas clauses and a maximum of 4 resolved clauses. The persuasive statement can be up to a maximum of 250 words. This persuasive statement will be used in the Voter's Guide for Legislative Assembly or Convention and is your opportunity to tell voting delegates the importance of this resolution and why it should be adopted by Washington State PTA. Finally, you need to provide the facts and evidence that lead you to propose this new resolution. It is crucial that all statements and statistics in your whereas clauses are backed up with facts and evidence. Please use footnotes to provide links to any websites, documents, etc. that you use to formulate your resolution. You are asked to limit your facts and evidence to no more than 5 pages. Properly citing your sources is incredibly important. Here is an example of how to properly cite your sources using footnotes. If you have any questions about how to cite your sources, please contact the Resolutions Chair. Before you submit your final resolution proposal form, there will be a reminder about the next steps. If you have any questions, please email the Resolutions Chair at resolutions@wastatepta.org. To help you draft your resolution whereas and resolved clauses, we have a few resources for you. Go to the Leadership Guide section of the website. You will need to log in to download resources from this part of the website. Scroll down to the bottom under Committee Focus Areas and select Advocacy. There you will find the Resolution Best Practices and the Resolution Template. The Resolution Best Practices document is a great resource to help you draft resolutions to submit at the state level. It has important information about drafting your overall resolution, as well as best practices to help with a strong title, whereas clauses, resolved clauses, and persuasive statement. Another great resource for you is the Resolution Template document. This gives you a good idea what a resolution should look like when adopted. You can use this template for any resolutions that your local PTA or council adopts. If you are submitting an amendment to an existing resolution instead of a new resolution, the process is very similar. You may submit amendments to the title and/or the whereas and resolved clauses. You will need to provide the title and the number of the existing resolution you wish to amend. If you are amending the title, you will enter it as you would like it to appear if adopted. Then answer the question that asks if you are also proposing amendments to the whereas or resolved clauses. Based on your answer to the previous question, you will be taken to a screen where you will see the information required in the Word document you will be uploading. The limits and requirements are the same as those of new resolutions, except that you need to indicate your proposed amendments to the current title, whereas, and resolved clauses using strike-through to note deletions and bold underline to show additions. Again, before you submit your final resolution proposal form, there will be a reminder about next steps. The final option is to propose the retirement of an existing resolution if you believe all of the objectives of the resolution have been met. You will need to provide the title and number of the existing resolution you wish to retire. The next screen will show you the information required in the Word document you will be uploading. The Word document will need to include the current resolution title and number, your persuasive statement, and the facts and evidence that lead you to propose the retirement of the resolution. Again, before you submit your final resolution proposal form, there will be a reminder about the next steps. You have submitted your resolution proposal. Now what? First, the Resolutions Committee does an in-depth review of all submissions using the checklist that was referenced earlier. Submitters should be available during the Resolutions Committee meeting to answer questions on the resolution. After that review, a member of the Resolutions Committee will get back to all submitters with the status of their proposal. The committee may have feedback that would strengthen the proposed resolution. The committee may also suggest resolutions be combined as needed. Once the feedback has been considered by all submitters, the next step is the Resolutions Committee vote. If the submitter agrees with the Resolutions Committee feedback, that version will be considered by the committee. If the submitter does not agree with the committee feedback, then the committee may move forward to the Board of Directors 2 different versions, the original submission and a second version incorporating committee feedback. The committee will provide the Washington State PTA Board of Directors a written report detailing the submissions received and the committee's recommendation for each submission. The committee will have 2 recommendations for each submission. First, whether the committee recommends the Washington State PTA Board of Directors moves the submission forward to delegates or not. Second, if the committee recommends the board moves it forward, is it with a recommendation to adopt, to reject, or with no recommendation? The Washington State PTA Board of Directors will review the submissions and Resolutions Committee feedback and make the final determination as to which resolutions will be presented to the membership for consideration. The board may amend a submission before presenting it to the membership. The board may also refer a submission back to committee for further review or clarification. Resolutions approved by the Washington State PTA Board of Directors will be presented for debate, possible amendment, and vote for possible adoption by the voting delegates at Legislative Assembly in October or Convention in the spring. The members have the final vote on what does and does not become part of the Washington State PTA legislative platform. And finally, it's time to advocate. Once it has been voted on by the members, it is part of the platform and we can get to work. Submitters have responsibilities throughout the entire process. Prior to Legislative Assembly or Convention, they must be available by email and phone to work with the Resolutions Committee on the resolution as needed. Submitters must create a resolution education PowerPoint presentation and proposed handouts if applicable. These presentations and handouts are due approximately 1 month prior to Legislative Assembly or Convention. It is crucial that all submitters make sure they are current PTA members, are registered for Legislative Assembly or Convention, and are designated as a voting delegate by their PTA president. Only voting delegates are allowed to speak from the microphone at Legislative Assembly and Convention, an important part of supporting your resolution. Submitters also have responsibilities during Legislative Assembly or Convention. You or your representative will present your resolution education to attendees to help them understand your resolution and the importance of adoption. Be prepared to be the expert on your resolution. Submitters should also bring all pertinent information to share during caucusing. You want to answer questions, gather support, and try to overcome objections. Be ready to counter the opposition's arguments by understanding who will not support your resolution and why. Finally, you should prepare an opening persuasive statement for the debate and have additional talking points to share with other delegates who want to speak in support of the resolution. More information and examples about the education presentation and caucusing will be sent later. The Washington State PTA Advocacy Director and Resolutions Chair will support you through the entire process. Assuming your resolution is adopted at Legislative Assembly or Convention, there is more work to do. During the legislative session, you will be invited to participate in the weekly Advocacy Committee phone calls that address bills and action on Washington State PTA issues and long-term positions. As needed, you may be asked to help prepare testimony, testify in Olympia, and recruit other potential leaders to move your resolution through the process. Please watch the other videos in the series if you plan to submit an issue or a legislative principle. Thank you for being part of our advocacy team.